Every so often I'll find a recipe off of allrecipes.com, try it, and the result will be something so good that nothing I've had has beat it. One of these recipes is an Amish white bread. I've only made it once, but I've never had a white bread better. So please cook this along with me, follow my directions as closely as possible, use the right ingredients, and hopefully you'll end up with the best white bread you've ever had. Alright, as with most bread recipes, the first thing you gotta do is feed your yeast, get your yeast activated. In this case, you're going to need 1 cup of 110 degree water. It's important, make sure it's around 110 degrees. This is warm, but not too hot and definitely not cold. Okay, we're going to take that, we're going to put in 1 packet of active dry yeast, which is 2 1/4 teaspoons. So pour all that in. Make sure you get it all out. And then we're going to put in 1/3 cup of white sugar. Okay, now just whisk this all together for a little bit. Okay, I'd say that's good. I like to whisk it until you see a lot of the yeast dissolve. Now what we're going to do is we're going to let it sit for, I'm going to let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes until it starts to foam up. As you can see, it's already foaming up, but it's really going to become frothy. This is called proofing your yeast. As you can see at this point, it has really begun to foam up more. Now since the yeast has begun eating the sugar, we need to stop this process, and you do this with salt. We need 3/4 teaspoon of salt. There's half. And there's 1/4, so that's 3/4. And then it also calls for 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil to be mixed in. So here's 1 tablespoon. Here's a second. Okay, this is the last time we're going to be using the whisk, so just whisk this all together. Okay, once you've mixed all that together, now we're going to mix in 3 cups of bread flour. And it's important to use bread flour. Don't try using all-purpose or cake flour or something else. Use bread flour. And we're going to mix it in 1 cup at a time, and I'm going to switch to a wooden spoon. And then after we've mixed it for a little while, we're going to start to knead it. So it says mix it in 1 cup at a time. So now pour the rest in here. I think it's important to take some bread flour, just a little bit. I always save a little bit and put it on the surface you're going to knead it on. Pour a little extra, there we go. Today's a humid day, so it's probably going to absorb more flour than it regularly would. So that's why I'm going to need a little extra. But in general, save some of your flour and put it on the surface you're going to knead on. should start to really come together and absorb a lot of the flour. I like to take some Crisco and kind of lather your hands with it. This is really going to help with the kneading process. So take out your dough, put it out on your floured surface. Okay, that looks decent enough to me. And then just start kneading it. You'll feel that it's sticky, and that's why the Crisco really helps. But the pieces should start to come together. Just push in with your palms, pull back, just kind of play around with it. You can kind of use your own technique, that's fine, it's just kneading. Just make sure you work it well. At this point, I recommend taking a big bowl. This is the bowl it's going to rise in. Put in a little bit of olive oil, not much. It's like maybe a tablespoon. Less, honestly. And then put your dough down in there. And turn it around so that the oil covers the dough completely. Okay. Now what I like to do to get a damp cloth is wash your hands, leave them dripping, and then dry them on a cloth, or a towel, cloth towel, and then you can use that as your damp cloth to cover it while it's rising. Now that we've got our dough covered, one technique that I like to use, and I really recommend you use as well, is to rise your dough, to let it rise well. Turn your oven on to like 300, 350 degrees and let it heat up for about a minute. Because for rising doughs, you want to be in a nice warm area with moisture. That's why you put a damp cloth over them. So turn your oven on bake, set it to 300, 350, let it heat up for a minute or so, and then we're going to put it in there, shut the door, and let it rise in a nice warm oven. Okay, now that your oven is heated up for a minute or so, turn it off. Don't accidentally leave it on or you're going to start baking your bread and it's just not going to turn out good. So turn it off, open it, you'll feel it's nice and warm, not too hot, And then, get your bread, put it in, shut the door, and this is the tough part for me especially. Leave it alone for an hour, maybe even an hour and a half, and it's going to double in size. Don't open this door a lot to check on it or you're going to let the heat escape. Just let it stay in a nice, moisture, hot area. Let it rise. Just go do something for an hour or so. Alright, the dough has been rising for a little over an hour now. So I'm going to pull it out and we're going to see that it's doubled in size. Or maybe even grown more, who knows. Alright. Yep. As you can tell, it's grown quite a bit. Now what the recipe says to do is punch it down, let out a lot of the air, knead it for a few more minutes, then we're going to spray a loaf pan, put it in here, shape it into a loaf, of course, before putting it in, and then let it rise in here for half an hour and then cook it. May seem like a lot, but trust me, it is worth it. Okay, so punch it down. As you can see, it kind of shrinks a little now. A lot of that air is escaping. So take what's remaining, then knead again for a few more minutes. I don't remember doing this the first time, but hopefully this helps it turn out really well. Smells really good. take your 9 by 5 inch loaf pan, you know, or it could be 10 by 4 or 8 by 6, whatever. Spray it, oil it well, and then put your dough in it. And I like to kind of just push it out. Can you guess what we're going to do next? That's right. Once again, we're going to heat up the oven to 300, or around to 300. You don't have to be exact. We're going to heat it up for about a minute and then turn it off so it's got a nice warm oven to rise in. And if you want, you can wash your hands again, clean up a little, get your towel damp again, and then cover it and let it rise for half an hour in your warm oven. Alright, I've let my oven warm up again. Dried my hands off in a towel, got it nice and damp. Get your dough, really try to kind of spread it out as best as you can. It's going to shrink back to its natural form, but that's alright. Turn off your oven. Open it up, it's nice and warm. Don't keep it open for long. Get your bread back in there. Let it rise for half an hour, then we can finally cook it. Alright, it's been half an hour, so let's see if our loaf of white bread has risen above the rim. As you can see, if you look at it, I would say it is an inch above at a certain point, right here in the middle. So now, we can bake it. Okay, so now we're going to bake this. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and then we're going to cook it for half an hour or until it's golden brown. You know, it looks like bread. Okay, the oven's heated up to 350 degrees, so I'm going to put my bread in and cook it for half an hour. I might check on it in 25 minutes just to make sure it doesn't burn. Well, we're about to have some delicious bread. Alright, it's been cooking for about 26 minutes. It looks nice and brown. It smells great. I think it's done. Looks pretty good to me. If you want to brush some melted butter on it, you know, you don't have to, or you can just leave it. At this point, just let it cool completely before you take it out of the pan. If you got a cooling rack, that'd be nice, or you can just set it on your stove. But I'm telling you, this is the best white bread I've ever had. Hopefully I made it as good the second time. Good luck. I really hope you try this recipe.